why not? Why? Why can't things be different? I think we're like those monkeys where we don't question, we just do because it's the way it's always been. And I think we need to get out of that and start questioning everything.
Welcome to the golden age. Let the world stop spinning. You could be my medicine. You could be my woman. Take it to the limit. Come and get with it. Welcome to the golden age. Let the world stop spinning. You could be my medicine. You could be my woman. Take it to the limit. Come and get with it. If you were mine, wouldn't you wanna be free when I let you inside?
All right. Hello. Welcome to the Golden Age podcast. My name is Hector. I've been in higher ed for 25 years. I'm a technologist or a self-ascribed technologist, interested in AI and interested in where we're headed. I have a lot of opinions on that. And I think one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is because we feel there's going to be a lot of adjustment. And I'm hoping that we can talk about how to find meaning and purpose when we're in a post-AI, post-AGI, post-superintelligence world. What does that mean? What does that mean for our work, our family, education, our children? Um, you know, these all things that are in question now. So I'm going to really want to ask the good questions, right? I don't think we're going to get the answers here. I think we're going to open up the door to questions. And that's where you start. That's how you start learning. But I'll turn it over to my partner here.
Hello, welcome to our show. My name is or Rena is what I go by. And I'm a psychologist and I work primarily with children. So I don't see where society is right now. I see what it looks like as it's forming, and it's kind of terrifying a little bit what I'm seeing. We're seeing a lot more anxiety. We're seeing more emotional dysregulation, more behavioral challenges, and kids are addicted to screens because the world around them just feels too big, too fast, too much. The parents are overwhelmed. Screens are a great babysitter for them. And so yeah, I see, I'm scared for our future. And so I'm excited to talk about a lot of the different things that we're seeing with AI, with our culture, with society, with the division, the politics, how that is affecting all of us, families, our youth, and yeah, the future of our world.
Do you think that one is leading the other? Do you think technology is leading this change, then politics have to adjust and society has to adjust? Or do you think they're all just happening at once and we're just really lucky for having all this stuff to happen at once?
I think, well, they're definitely all happening at once, and so I think that's really overwhelming. And I think, seeing what is going on in politics and being inundated with everything because of the screens and social media and everything, so we have a lot more access to information and people's opinions, and so that leads us to be more aware of what's going on in politics, which leads to yeah, the division. So it's kind of all happening at once, and it's all kind of causing each other as well. Does that make sense? Like, it's kind of both. It's happening together and it's also causing each other.
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling that it would all happen at once. I mean, I guess these things are interdependent, interrelated, but the way that we put each other either in our camp or someone else's camp on purpose to, I don't know what, to cause drama, to cause stress, to just make a point. I don't know if you noticed, there was a story, I think it was at the Australian Tennis Open, and they were interviewing one of the young tennis phenoms, and she's probably 17, maybe 18 years old. And they asked her, well, how does it feel competing under an American flag, given the turmoil this year in your country? And I thought that was a terrible question. This person obviously handled it very well because they've been probably trained and said, I don't think it's a factor. I'm not going to comment on politics. That's not why I'm here.
That was a
But
good answer.
that was just to me. Yeah. But to me, it's just a symptom of like, why are you trying to take something and turn it into something else? Turn something nice, sports, tennis, and then put you on the spot and make you choose your camp and then choose your enemy, right? That's just
It seems
that's sick
like
to me.
yeah, and it seems like politics are being added to everything. I mean, I haven't watched any awards like the Grammy Awards or I don't even know what other awards there are. I mean, all the movie stars that get awards,
Hmm.
Oscars, I guess. I don't watch those anymore ever since I realized that, these actors are used to brainwash us. But I hear that they're very political now. These actors, these millionaires that are not in touch with reality. They get up on stage and they start preaching about politics, and I feel like it's really strange and inappropriate. Those things should be,
Hmm.
in my opinion, separate. Entertainment is not politics, but it just seems like they're just really, and when I say they, I think, the people in charge, the millionaires, that are the puppet masters, they just wanna throw politics in there as much as possible because it causes that division that they want.
Hmm. Yeah.
Riles people up and, and it's part of the whole brainwashing thing too. "Oh, you like Halle Berry, and she said that, this was her stance, and so therefore I think I might be swayed in that direction," or whatever. So, there's a lot of that politics being inserted into a lot of different arenas that really, shouldn't be, and it's
No, and the
disgusting.
ratings of the Oscars is disgusting. The ratings of the Oscars, the Golden Globes, I mean, it's all that has gone in the dumpster.
Yeah.
And from a practical point of view, why would you alienate half your audience? I mean, the point is to express your art and have your art seen. And oftentimes you're portraying like kind of disgusting people. That's kind of the art form. If you're an actor, you have those roles occasionally. But then yet you want to like completely like have half your audience go away and never watch your work again is crazy to me. I mean, when I go to a Bruce Springsteen concert, I want to listen to music, you know. I don't particularly agree with the Bruce, but it doesn't matter. Why would it matter? It doesn't matter at all. We're
Uh-huh.
having a good time. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
um, so we have three things we're going to talk about. I guess we're calling them segments. Was there anything else you wanted to say before we got into the first one?
No, we can go ahead and talk about our segments.
This is the easy one, right? This is well, I feel the news cycle isn't very active on the weekends. I mean, it never really ends. But I feel like they really save it up for Monday and every news broadcast, every podcast, every person is going to be talking about this shooting. And I feel like 99% of them are going to have an opinion. And my take is, why on earth would I have an opinion? I don't even know what happened. But I think we both know, you and I both know what happened before that. And I think I'll let you start there because how did we get here?
Yeah, well, actually, I do think a lot of podcasters are already giving their opinion, and I think that with social media, we don't have to wait until Monday to get, maybe like
True.
the
Yeah.
quote unquote, mainstream media will jump on it on Monday, but as far as what's being shown on social media, I mean, that's all I'm seeing right now is the
Mhm.
reposting of these videos by different influencers or podcasters, and yeah, giving their opinion and jumping to conclusions, and it's just so interesting. I was watching this one lady talk about it, and she was just so angry and talking about, oh, you effing MAGA supporters, shame on you. This is all on you. You've got blood on your hands. And it just bothered me so much because it's just, some of us, we are not one extreme or the other, and we're not labeling ourselves, and we might agree with some things on the right
Mhm.
and some things on the left, and I don't know, I feel like that type of language and that type of message is just it's just making everything worse. It's causing the division, and we need to realize that we can't make those types of statements because it pisses people off and it alienates them, like you said, and just causes that more of that division. Like, I don't know, people, we're so used to being labeled and placed in a box. Like, "Oh, you're Republican? Then you must agree with everything that's in that Republican box. Oh, you're
Mhm.
liberal? Then you have to agree with, all those things, the transgenderism and the immigrants, like, but that's not the case. That's not the case. Some of us are intelligent thinkers who, we see something from the right that we agree with, and we see things on the right that we don't agree with, and vice versa with the left. And I don't know, people need to stop following what, because that is the agenda, is to divide us. And people need to
Mm.
to get become become smarter and realize that that is intentional, and we need to unite. I'm terrified for the future, for that reason as well. That is how they're getting away with everything that they're getting away with doing, is because we're so divided and we're fighting each other on stupid things. The whole
Hmm.
transgender thing, that was a big distraction. That was a big distraction. It's really not that big of a deal. Let people do what they want to do. As long as the argument was, yeah, well, just, don't impose it on our kids, which I agree with. But aside from that, just, live your life and let others live, and no one really cares what, your sexual
Well,
preference is or whatever.
that's a good example of being boxed into an ideology. I have gay friends, and they say, "Why do I have to get lumped into the absolute extreme left of things just because I'm gay?" It doesn't make any sense. Just
Yeah.
because you like a certain thing, then you have to buy into. If I buy into a little bit of Republicans, well, I'm a neocon, I'm a racist, I'm a Nazi. And it's the same on the left. If you buy it into a little bit of being liberal, wanting some amount of socialism. There's a lot of socialism that has been in this country for a long time. And honestly, with how things are changing with AI, we might get more socialism, right? I wonder what we could talk about this later, but I wonder what the economic structure is going to be. It's not going to be what it is now. But yeah, I do wonder about those things. And yeah, it's this Minnesota thing. I don't like how it got to where it's at. But I don't really care what happened that day. I don't care what happened, where the gun was. Right? You know, I feel terrible for all those people. That person that showed up with that gun probably thought he was doing the right thing. That officer who fired 9 times after a gun went off. Seemingly, we don't know for sure. That seems like what's happened. He was trying to do the right thing. He was responding to training. When there's a threat, these officers have to put the threat down. And when you're using lethal force, there is no excessive force in lethal force, right? When you made the call to use
Mhm.
lethal force, you can empty your clip. That's fine. Um, but that situation all shouldn't have happened. We shouldn't be in this, and this has been going on for years, right? Where you have these combat troop looking guys doing things that look shady. We don't have any information. As a citizen, that could be a very bad guy that they're apprehending, right? But I don't know that. And who made the decision? Like, how bad is he before we have to go after him and apprehend him, right? Is he a shoplifter that is an illegal, or is he a murderer that's an illegal? No one's talking about that, right? And mistakes are going to happen. Just, oh, we picked up the wrong guy. Well, either we pick up these people or not, and that's a different conversation. Well, so what's your take on the rightness or wrongness of what happened in this particular shooting?
Well, I do believe that what happened is important. I was I didn't like that we did have such open borders for such a long time, and we did have all these drugs coming through, human trafficking increased because of that. And so I do agree that, we did have to clean house a little bit. I don't like how they're going about it, and I don't like how they misled us into believing that originally it was going to be ICE going after criminals. Now they're going
Hmm.
after sweet, innocent families and, children. And that is heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking to me. Yes, they're here
So where's the
illegally.
oversight? Yeah, where's the
Where,
oversight when, like I said, there should be like a document or someone tracking it, or a court or a judge saying yes, that's appropriate. Yes, I mean, it should be. There should be a system
right.
involved where we can go to the record and go, oh yeah, of course you're picking that person up. They need to
Yeah. And
be
right
they need
now
to be
it's like a
held
free for all.
responsible.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right now
Or
it's a
or if
free
there
for
is
all.
if there is a system, they're not telling us, right?
Yeah.
That's even
Yeah.
worse. So.
Yeah. And so, Renee Good, that was interesting because, it's up in the air whether she intentionally was running over the ICE agent or it truly was an accident. It's hard, I can see both sides, a little bit of both sides, but
Hmm.
with this person, Alex Peretti, I think is his name, um, this one really did bother me because from what I can see the videos, it does I'm wondering how they even knew he had a gun in the first place, but never does he reach for it. They come after him, and what bothers me about that is the fact that I think is it Christy Nome? And I don't know who the
Hmm.
other guy was, like the head of the military, both went on television already and flat out lied to us about what actually happened. They said that he went and tried to attack them with the gun already drawn. They're gaslighting
Hmm.
us, and that's what really pisses me off is when the media tries to lie to us because half of the population falls for it. They're gonna hear that and they're gonna be like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, so it was fine, he deserved it." When if
Right.
you are a smart person, you are going to do your own research. But anyways, I just half the population right now is cheering and applauding that. And then the other half, is angry and rallying right now. And yeah, it's just heartbreaking to me how, insensitive and how we've become, like, immune to murder and yeah, just because he wasn't on our side, he deserves to die, That's as humans, that's not who we are, and that's not who we should be. Really, it's really depressing and really disturbing that this is where we are as humanity, applauding the death of Charlie Kirk, applauding the death of Renee Good. It's no death is good regardless. We're allowed to have different opinions. We're humans. We're not going to be the same. And so that's really disturbing to me and is really discouraging to see that that's the path that we're going down as a society and as humanity.
Yeah, and no politician wants to do the right thing and be responsible and say, like, let's say the part of the Trump administration, let's say, well, it's under investigation. We're not quite sure what happened. We'll figure it out. We hope the law was followed. Um,
Yeah,
but we don't know. We don't know. And that's just who's gonna be angry about that? But they can't.
exactly.
I think they feel they can't say it because then the other side has too much ammunition. But I don't care. Just say what's real. Don't say what's not real. I don't know. You call it a lie. I guess it is a lie, but it's more just not presenting reality. They don't know. They can't tell us. Um,
Mhm.
Even if it comes to pass to be true, right? Uh, Another angle that shows him reaching for his belt or something like that. He doesn't. That's not there right now. So they just misled to just create more division, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's all to create division and, yeah, keep us fighting each other while they go ahead and move forward with their agendas. On the day, this might be a little bit off topic, but the day that we attacked, or not attacked, but well, yeah, attacked and kidnapped the Venezuelan, um,
Hmm.
was the President Maduro.
Yep.
That day was the day that they were supposed to release more of the Epstein files, maybe the unredacted. I don't know the exact details. I'll have to look into it. But they were supposed to release more of the Epstein files, and they didn't, and they still haven't, and they haven't given
Hmm.
any reason as to why. And so, I don't know, some of these things I just wonder about the timing of it, like they're using it to distract us, they're using it to divide us, they're using it to make us scared while they're going behind the scenes and, moving forward with things that I think if we were aware of, hopefully we would unite and fight against. Um
Yeah, I think some of these things, like, I have no idea what's going on with the Epstein files. I really don't know. What I do know is that they're using it as a tool, right? They're using it as a tool. And then people will say, "Oh, they're using it as a tool. There's this conspiracy. They're all getting together saying, let's not let this truth be out there." It's like, no, 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 no. That's not the point. They see a tool that breeds chaos. And when there's a chaotic moment, the people in control do better than the people
yeah.
not in control. Whether it means financially, politically, psychologically. um, you generated the chaos. You have the upper hand, and it works out for you. So it's a feedback loop. Like, well, that worked out. Let's do that again.
It's control out of chaos.
Yeah,
They,
and I
they
think that's what
create the
that's what the Epstein
chaos.
files is. Yeah.
Yeah, the Epstein files is so interesting to me. It's disgusting that everyone is protecting these pedophiles. They're saying it's it would be an issue of national security or something like that if they released who the clients were. Like, really? So you're gonna protect them because it's gonna be so horrific that people are gonna, riot and want to overthrow the government that's been raping underage, girls and children. And yeah, so they hold themselves to, like, they're above the law is basically what they're telling us. We're not going to let you know who they are. We're not going to arrest
Mm.
anyone, but you guys
Mhm.
go and collect some rainwater illegally. We're going to arrest you. But we can get away with pedophilia and rape and fraud, and we're above the law and we're
Yeah.
protecting each other.
Well, we got the victims are known, at least, I think I don't know if they're all publicly known, but there's obviously records of all the victims. They have the
Yeah.
arrests of the ringleaders, and you're telling me they don't have any of the people that committed these crimes, any information on them? Um, that's just not believable. And I think
Yeah,
that's
well
what
they
keeps the public
do.
interest on this.
Yeah,
Well,
they do
or
know
they're
who.
redacting them. Yeah,
Yeah, they do know who exactly who's on the list. The FBI knows, and I'm sure our governments know, but they're protecting them. But they certainly do
yeah.
know.
It's bizarre to me. I mean, there's people like Dan Bongino, who's a podcaster. He goes up into the administration and becomes assistant or whatever, deputy director of the FBI. He even, if you go, you can go back and look at his podcast. He talks about this. He talks about, getting the truth out there, exposing everything, no matter the cost. And then he goes to the administration and nothing happens. And he says, nah, there's nothing to see there. And then he just quit. He
Yeah,
quit
that was
to go.
really weird. So I don't know. I guess I wasn't really familiar with like what his role was exactly. I just knew that
Mm,
he was speaking out a lot during the pandemic about the corruption and all that. And so I was really happy to hear when he was given the position in the Trump administration. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know. I didn't follow what he was doing or what happened, what the drama was, and why he ended up quitting, right?
yeah. Part of me wants to think he quit because he didn't want to lie. The other
Mhm.
part could be, you know what? I'm tired of this BS. I'm gonna go back to my job where I made a lot of money and had a good time.
Yeah.
And you can't
Yeah.
blame him for that.
Yeah, and I'm sure
But
yeah, he probably wanted
he was
oh,
always a lot of. I mean, it's not maybe totally universal, but a lot of people thought of him as a patriot.
yeah,
And would a
exactly.
patriot do that? Would a patriot just turn his nose away from the truth? I don't think so. But hard to read that situation for sure.
So much strangeness going on in the United States and in the entire world, but I feel like the United States, we're like the center of all like this chaos and upheaval and drama. And I have cousins who are in Switzerland right now, calling me and being like, "Oh my god, are you guys okay? Are you okay?" Like, I don't know how we're being publicized in other countries, but it sounds like, they feel like it's very crazy in the United States right now, and it is. um but yeah, I don't know and I don't feel like it's going to get any better. It's all leading toward, I believe, the new world order, the surveillance, the surveillance system, and let's see, digital currency, right? They want to be able to control, us through having, what we're allowed, what we can buy, what we can't buy. Did you hear about how they just passed, I don't know if it's legislation, something that by 2026 all new cars will have a kill switch. Why would you
Oh
want
my
that?
god.
All
Oh
new
my
cars
god.
made after 2026 will be required to have a kill switch. I mean,
So
that's just
someone in authority can turn off your car. Great.
yep, yep, you go
Well,
out,
I mean, to be fair, I mean, your car is going to be a robot. Maybe not in 26, but very shortly. And I mean, if you have an Apple, if you have a MacBook, you pretty much follow the rules of Apple, right? And if you're going to have a car that's a robot, even if it's whoever it's owned by, that's going to be something that's not really yours. It's controlled by someone else. But this goes back to, like you said, people just giving up their freedom and being okay with it being surveyed and being controlled, and um, because it's easy, I guess. I don't know. But if you grow up in it, I totally understand that. But I don't see people. I see people my age, younger, that are perfectly willing to just give all that up. Um, and it's strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I just feel like we're gonna get to a point where, we're gonna be so controlled. It's gonna be like, one of those Black Mirror episodes or how it is in China with the social credit system. And,
Hmm.
and there's gonna be a time where it's just gonna be normal for society. It's like the 5 monkeys experiment. Have you heard of that? The 5 monkeys
No,
experiment? So they
no.
put 5 monkeys in a room, in a cage, and they put a ladder with bananas at the top of the cage of the ladder. And so, of course, the first thing the monkeys would do is try to climb the ladder or try climb the ladder to get the bananas. And when every time they did that, they would get sprayed with freezing cold water. So they all learned not to go up the ladder to get the bananas. So once they all learned that
Hmm.
and none of them were doing it anymore, they took one of the monkeys out and replaced it with a brand new one. Of course, the first thing that brand new monkey did was climb up the ladder to get the bananas. But what the other monkeys did was they would grab him and beat him. And so
Oh,
that monkey learned not to climb up the ladder because the other monkeys would beat him. And so then they continued to replace all the other monkeys with one by one with a brand new monkey. And that's what they would all do. As soon as the brand new monkey would try to climb up, they would beat him. So eventually they were
wow.
all replaced. They were all replaced. None of them had ever been sprayed with cold water. They just learned that if any monkey tried to climb up the ladder, you got beat up. And so if they spoke and you asked them, "Hey, why are you guys beating each other up for climbing the ladder and trying to get the bananas?" If they could speak, they would say, "We don't know. That's just the way it's always been done."
Yeah.
And so I
That's
feel
that's
like,
that's a great experiment. That says so much about us. And, the banana is reality. A lot of people don't. Yeah, right. A lot of people are just not looking at the banana anymore. That's for
yeah, I mean,
sure.
the banana is us paying taxes. Why do we pay taxes? We weren't supposed to pay taxes forever. They were supposed to be temporary, but why do we do it? We don't know. It's just the way it's always been done. It's what we were told that we have to do? That's
Hmm.
just why do we do so many things that we have to do that that government imposes on us? It's just the way it's always been done. And pretty
Yeah.
soon it'll be, yeah, I can't eat meat more than once every couple weeks because that's just the way it's always been done because we're supposed to eat bugs according to the World Economic Forum.
What is our next subject here? Hmm, I don't know. Actually, talking about the World Economic Forum, that's interesting in itself. All these rich people going
It's
to Davos and I don't know, commiserating over being extraordinarily wealthy.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
interesting thing about it is, as far as I could see, everyone's just talking about AI, AI, AI. It's because of the raw number of dollars involved. We're talking trillions of dollars to be spent on infrastructure, um,
yeah,
and that comes from chips in Taiwan and China, and now we're building chip fab plants in the United States, and um, there's just a lot of money involved, and so everyone's gung ho about it. But certainly, they say it's a bubble. All this investment is a bubble because what do we have now? I think for the average person, they look at like Chat GPT and go, "Yeah, it's fine, but it hallucinates and it's wrong, and I don't see it as being intelligent." Um, but the average person, I don't think uses it in the way that uh, would really impress them. Like, I think when you start to use it with your work and you realize, whoa, I can be 100, 200, 300% more productive at the same quality I was doing before. Um, I think that's what these venture capitalists and these um, people in charge they see. And they were just talking about, is next year the year? Is the year after the year where this thing becomes so good that it doesn't need humans anymore. That's where we want to get to. That's the singularity, right? Where it can self improve, recursively self improve, and just takes off. And the only limit then is energy and resources. Um, but one of the things they don't talk about, and I think this is like one of the subjects of our podcast, is okay, what happens after that? you know, if there's abundance everywhere, we don't have to work, everything's great. Um, but that doesn't jive with the way that I think that we've lived most of our modern life, certainly since the Industrial Revolution, but probably before that. Um, I just don't know. And then also, what they also don't talk about is how are you going to convince like Ethiopia to get on board with all this? They talk about not just universal basic income, but universal high income. I just feel like a lot of people aren't going to get on board and they're going to say no, and there's going to be wars and there's going to be conflict, and no one's talking about that. And that's just to say, I don't want to get too deep into it because it would take a lot of time. I think we need to be more focused on the substance. I don't know. What's your thoughts on all that?
I mean, I think that even if people do oppose it, I think uh, it's gonna be presented in such a way that we're really not gonna have a choice. I think
Mhm.
that they're gonna crash our economic to have an economic crash. People are going to be starving. I think that people will be begging by the time they're done with us. We're gonna be begging for some sort of help from the government, which is how they always do things, right? They create the problem and then they come and help us and solve it. So I think they're going to present it in a way, where they're just going to make things so difficult for us through a lot of different ways. You know, right now people can't buy homes. Right now people are really, struggling financially. Their health is declining. They can't afford health insurance. We're overweight. We're eating poisoned food constantly. So I feel like, they're purposely making us as miserable and unhealthy as possible so that at some point our morale, our quality of life is just we're struggling so much that the majority of people will be welcoming to what their solution is, and that'll be um things that, require AI surveillance and AI this and AI that. So I think regardless of whether people want it or not, it's gonna come, and they're gonna find a way through wars, through famine, through whatever it is that they need to. I don't think we're gonna have a choice, but I don't know. I could be
And
wrong.
the end game here is that the economy doesn't need people. That's the end game.
Yeah,
And the end game is also that yes, there'll still be people, um, but there'll be so much abundance and so much. We'll have robot doctors. We'll have all diseases figured out, and the people on Davos, at least, we're talking about not 30 years, not 20 years, but 5 to 10 years for all this to happen. And I
yeah,
just do not see that we are prepared to make that shift.
no,
Certainly not the average person. And that worries me. And how do you teach your children to make that shift? They might do better at it than us, but um, we're not even thinking about it. Not even thinking about what that's going to mean. Um, and I think this is the year where a lot more people think about it. Um, I don't know. What do you think?
um I just keep going back to what these CEOs of all these AI companies are saying. Did you see the interview with Peter Thiel? Can we show a clip? Okay.
I could
Yeah,
try.
well there's
I could try splicing a clip into this yeah. Let's try
Yeah,
that.
that would be amazing because I have this clip of Peter Thiel being interviewed, and they're asking him, do you feel like humanity, something along the lines of, do you feel like humanity deserves to survive, or something like that? I'm not
Hmm.
wording it correctly, but something along the lines where any normal person would be like, yeah, absolutely, of course, why would we say no? He doesn't say yes.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right?
Uh,
You're
yeah.
hesitating.
Well,
Yes?
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit in
Should the
this.
human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also would. I also would like us to radically solve these problems,
Right.
and so it's always, I don't know, yeah, transhumanism is this, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. And there's a critique of, let's say, the trans people in a sexual context, or I don't know, a transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross dresses, and a transsexual is someone where you change your, I don't know, penis into a vagina. And we can then debate how well those surgeries work. But we want more transformation than that. It's the critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. It's, man, it's so pathetically little. And okay, we want more than cross dressing or changing your sex organs. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body.
Remember, interviews are never just a conversation.
He doesn't say yes. He has to think about it. He hesitates, and you can see him like he's like, well, so and this is Peter Thiel. What is he the head of? He created
He's
what
a
did he
big time
create?
venture capitalist. He's created lots of different
With
companies, and yeah, I think he has a big stake in OpenAI.
yeah,
I think
so
might be one of the founders of OpenAI.
to answer the question about, are humans even going to be needed in the future? I think they're already thinking, yeah, we're not going to need humans that much anymore.
Hmm.
Um, so, and then that whole brings us to the whole, is that the reason that they want, the whole depopulation thing? You keep hearing about what Bill Gates is trying to do and, what they're trying to do with dimming the sun and all the things they're spraying in our air and the poison they're putting in our foods. And so, I
Bill
mean,
Gates is an interesting subject. That guy becomes less and less credible over time.
oh,
Um,
yeah.
Recently, he backtracked completely on climate change, and he
Oh,
says,
really?
"Well, yeah, this is I think it was in December, maybe November." He says, "Oh, yeah, it's not really an existential threat. It's not the thing we want to be spending our money on." Like, really?
Wow.
From the guy that was really, banging the gong on climate change and how it's going to end the world. Um,
Yeah.
he's
Huh.
backtracked completely, and
Interesting.
I don't know why, but it's that conversation has slowed down quite a bit. I've always been of
Yeah.
the thought that climate's going to change. Let's figure out how to adapt to the change.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, climate's always changing throughout history.
yeah, no, on the same side of it. Like, no, I don't want to be belching out coal electricity plants. I think India is building hundreds, if not thousands, of them. That doesn't sound good to me, but
They're building
it's the
what?
world's thousands of coal plants for electricity.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. Now China, interestingly enough, China has, I think, doubled their grid in the last 10 years. The United States has added 2% to the electric grid in the last 10 years. China
Only
has doubled it.
2%. Wow.
But
We're behind.
China is doing it with solar panels, largely. Not the hydro, the dam generation, not nuclear, not anything else. It's largely solar. uh, which is they're setting themselves up for if there's an era where we have to have a lot of electricity because we're powering AI, they'll be fine, and us not so much. So that's something else to think about. A lot of this is rate limited by if we can get all the assets in play. Like there may be we may have artificial super intelligence, but we just don't have enough power to make it something that can help us? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. And anyone, Peter
Yeah.
Thiel, like I said, was he was going, oh, yeah, I think you caught on to him. I think he's being perfectly honest. Um, Elon has been very clear about this. He's Elon is a techno optimist, right? He believes that this is all going to work, and we're all going to have more robots than humans, 10 billion robots. That it's going to bring universal, high income. That all diseases will be cured. But he wants to hedge to get humans on Mars just in case. Tells you something, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's realistic about it, but there's always a chance. And um, I think that's what scares people. Like if you went to bed tonight and they said, uh, there's a 1% chance you might not wake up. Good night. You would be terrified, right? It's a pretty good chance. But I think a lot of people, and probably Teal, is more in the 10% chance. Um, Once again, it goes back to I don't think we all know. I don't think he knows. And certainly going around and saying that is not good for his bottom line, right?
Well, what do you think about all these billionaires building, bunkers,
Hmm.
preparing
Yeah.
for something that apparently we're not aware of? they're all preparing for something. They're
You
building,
know,
these amazing
good.
bunkers.
Yeah, I think Zuckerberg has one.
They're all
There's like a
going to New
list.
Zealand. There's a lot in New Zealand
Yeah.
that are being built.
Or here's my thing. All right. Who are you taking to the bunker? Well, your family, I suppose, right? How are you going to get there? Um, who's going to
Their
protect you
private
on the way?
jets.
Well, who's going to protect you on the way? Who's going to get you from your house to the airport when the S hits the fan? These people are so dependent on other people. If you're
They'll know
Zuckerberg's
ahead of
pi-
time.
well, if you're Zuckerberg's pilot and you pick him up and you're like, you know what? I want to live. I don't care about Zuck. People will turn on these billionaires and they will not get out of this very well. As it's my if that were to happen, God hope it doesn't happen. But that's a dumb plan. The right plan is to spend that money to try to stop it, try to prevent this, right? You're,
Mhm.
you're not gonna you're not gonna live in a hole for the rest of your life and thinking that humanity is gonna come back together. If that did happen, it would take hundreds of years for humanity to pick it back up. And yeah, so I think the really smart people with lots of money are not doing that. I think maybe it's just a flex, like a rich flex, like a yacht. That could be too.
Having a bunker.
Um, yeah. Hey, you want to check out my bunker? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have a bunker if I was a billionaire or a millionaire. Feel safe.
You wanna take this towards, I guess, more uplifting things? Not that I don't think we're being, depressing, I think we're just calling things out.
No. Yeah, I think we're being realistic. I think we're talking about things that I think a lot of people are already aware of, and
Mhm,
it's not anything new. Hopefully, and I think it's good for people to be for those who aren't aware to become aware. Um Yeah, well, we can talk about Japan. I don't know why I came across a website that was talking about how amazing Japan is and why it's one of the best places to live. And so I started looking into it a little bit, and I just loved how, they're like the opposite of the United States. They,
mhm,
instead of like the individualism, all about me, 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 I want to be number one. I want, it's more of a collective society where they're the cleanest country in the world.
mhm,
Children go to school by themselves because it's so safe. There's hardly any theft there. Let me see, what else did I learn? It made me like just realize how backwards the United States is. And unfortunately, I haven't lived in other countries, so I don't know. I've traveled to many other countries, but I haven't lived in one long enough to know what it's like. But I just get the impression that yeah, that we've been told that United States is just such an amazing country, and but you go other places and we're there actually might be a little bit better than living here. But yeah, so I was like, I asked ChatGPT to tell me what I needed to do if I wanted to move to Japan as soon as possible. And it's not
what was
that
the answer?
easy.
Oh, it's
Well,
not,
the
okay.
answer, yeah, it's not that easy. You either have to be a student, you have to say you're going to be a student, and then that only gives you a visa for up to 2 years, I believe. And then you have to
Mhm,
prove that you have a certain amount of money in a savings account. And then there were other ways too that are a little longer, a little more difficult. But then I was like, well, let me just go visit, this summer. Maybe I'll just go stay there for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something.
right.
But yeah, it just seems like such a beautiful, polite country where everyone looks out after each other. There's no, they just seem so healthy, like mentally healthy, much more mentally healthy than the United States. And they just respect each other. And yeah, so I don't know. I was just thinking, oh gosh, like that. Why are we not all like that? They obviously,
Well, yeah, I think what they have is something that is the secret weapon to happiness for a society. They have a homogenous culture, right? So
mhm,
they don't have to
right.
deal with different value systems and, it's just easier. I just looked at the 10 happiest countries. It is no surprise because the first 5 of them are small countries where you have a homogenous group of largely culturally the same kind of people. So it's Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, Netherlands. Yeah, that's just easier. It's easier that way. And Japan's not on the list, but I think
Mhm.
that might be because I do recall Japan did historically have a high suicide rate, um, from the the business side of it. But no, you're right. They have different values. They rather be part of a team and win in business. They don't want to get the
Mhm.
credit. They have certain kinds of honor systems that are different than us. You can literally leave your wallet on a bench and walk off, and it will be there when you get back. And it's super clean, and um, my brother lived there for 3 years, and he just loved it.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, he was doing a
really?
student teaching English,
Uh-huh.
um, and that's actually where he met his American wife, oddly enough. But yeah, he learned the language. He was teaching in a kind of a small rural town, and he just had a great time. And I Japan to me seems like one of those places that it's hard to change. It's resistant to change, you know. But it also has one of the problems that almost every Western country has, and I lump Japan as a Western country, is the birth rate, right? Um, what's going to happen to Japan in 100 years? There's going to be a tiny population, um,
Mm.
and I don't know how you fix that, or if you want to fix that, like maybe it's just robots and just a few people, and but they're not as bad off as like something like Italy. Italy has a terribly small birth replacement rate and a huge immigration rate. And they're saying like by 2060, you won't, as an Italian person is not going to be recognizable. Italians will be all but gone in 30 to
Really?
50 years. Yeah, at the current rate
Oh,
of
wow.
cultural change and immigration and lack of having new Italian babies, it's very interesting. I think this is probably a good subject for another podcast, but I think just talking about what birth rate means, population, overpopulation, underpopulation, it's recently new into like the zeitgeist of like, should we have more babies? Huh. But then now it's too late because no one wants to have more babies, right? So except unless you're Elon and he has what, 14 babies?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, right? So he's doing his part. But yeah, Japan is interesting. I wonder how they're going to handle this cultural shift because they're going to have to go through the same thing. They're going to go the same thing of being if their identity is so much tied into their job and part of their team, and they can't do that anymore, or they get replaced by someone that
Mhm.
does it better. How's that going
They're
to
alre
impact them?
they're already so much more advanced in the United States, though, as far as their technology, it's amazing. Yeah, we seem like a third world country compared to how advanced they
Yeah,
are
that's
from
true.
what I've seen in videos.
Yeah, I
So,
remember like even the cell phones, like they have like cell phones you've never heard of, like that do crazy, amazing things, and yeah, it's really interesting.
yeah. Yeah, so I won't, wouldn't mind moving to Denmark or Japan but who
Would you
knows,
though?
maybe they
Would you actually do that? You think? Not for any good, like not because if the U.S. turns to crap, things are not looking good, you're not happy. Yeah, I can see moving, but just generally, if you had like some opportunity in one of those countries, would you just up and move? I wouldn't.
would I up and move? I'm just at a point in my life where I feel like I am ready for a change. I've been in my career
Mm,
now for 15 years. I'm kind of like I feel like I've kind of reached like a plateau as far as I don't know, like I'm ready for a big change. And if that
hmm
opportunity was presented to me, like, hey, do you want to move to Japan or Denmark or Sweden or Switzerland? I think I would say yes. I think it would be an adventure, and I'd be what I need. I would think I would. Yeah. But,
Well, that was the norm. That was the American norm, and I don't know about international travel, but it used to be you were staying here for a while, things change, you get a new job, you move west. We used to have that vagabond spirit about us, and now everyone doesn't leave their hometown practically, unless you
yeah.
go to college, and then sometimes you come right back because you can't afford a house. But the
Yep.
idea of going where the work is, or just taking that chance, is I think it's left our culture a little bit. So that's good. That's good to hear. I'm glad you have that in you. It's a admirable thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, is there anything else before we close? We're at 51 minutes, so we might want to.
Yeah. No, I think we're good.
All right. So I don't know if we're ever going to publish this or not, but we should have like a take that we can give to the future listeners. How do you feel so far?
Yes. How do I what?
How do you feel so far about what we just did?
Oh, how do I oh, I love it. I was thinking we were gonna publish it.
Oh, there you go.
I think it's great. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you got to start somewhere, right? And
Mhm.
we'll get better and better at all the logistical and technical stuff. But as
Yeah.
far as meat and potatoes, I think was all right. I think
Yeah.
so.
And I think for me, like the ending is just always, question everything. Why not? Why? Why can't things be different? I think we're like those monkeys where we don't question, we just do because it's the way it's always been. And I think we need to get out of that and start questioning everything. Things need to change because if they keep going on the way they have been, it's not a good
Hmm.
future. So things have to change. So we have to start questioning so that changes start happening. So that would be my
I, I
my ending thing.
I agree. Probably couldn't say it much better than that. But if we don't question, we're not going to know. Like we're not going to see the banana. Maybe we don't want the banana, right? But unless you question it, you're not going to know. You're not making a
Yeah,
choice. You're being. I don't know if it's a slave, but you're being something. Yeah, I think that's a good message to leave at the end of the show. Just question everything. It doesn't
question
mean you're
everything.
crazy. It just means that you're inquisitive and you want to know what the world is really like.
Exactly. It's okay to be curious. We should all be
Hmm.
curious.
All right.
All
Well,
right. Well,
thank you so
Take
much.
it to the limit,
thank
come and get
you.
with it.
Bye,
And
everyone.
Welcome to the golden age. Let